du sett va? Rosa mandel.
Malou von Sivers var en av de där tjejerna som på 60-talet svimmade när The Beatles stod på scen. Hon var också en av de där som naturligtvis älskade John Lennon mycket mer än de andra Beatlarna. Hon var också en av dem som fylldes av svartsjuka och ilska när den mytomspunna Yoko Ono kom in i bilden. Och nu, långt senare, möts de i en intervju.
Den 8 december 1980 mördades John Lennon. Han sköts utanför sin bostad Dakota Building och en hel värld sörjde honom. Dödsskotten satte också punkt för en av vår tids mest omskrivna kärlekshistorier. Den mellan John Lennon och Yoko Ono. Och ännu en gång stod den hatade och kontroversiella Yoko Ono i fokus. Nu ensam med den 5-årige sonen Sean.
We taught Sean that there's nothing you can't do in the world, you know. And then he was crying and saying, well, Mommy, you know, you guys said that there's nothing I can't do in the world, but I can't get Daddy back, could I, you know. And it was so terrible. I mean, I didn't know what to say to him.
Här inne i Dakota Building på Manhattan bor Yoko Ono i samma lägenhet som hon levde med John Lennon. Fortfarande vallfärdar folk hit från hela världen och de står tysta utanför entrén där John Lennon mördades. Jag är en av dem som växte upp med Beatles och jag gillade aldrig Yoko Ono. Kvinnan som splittrade Beatles och som rövade bort John Lennon och låste in honom. Bilden av henne som maktlysten, mystisk och kallhamrad lever fortfarande kvar starkt i mig. Idag är Yoko Ono 67 år och har nyligen haft en stor vernissage på sin retrospektiva utställning med avantgardistisk konst. Yoko Ono ställer sällan upp på längre intervjuer. Och det har hänt att hon reser sig upp mitt under intervjun och går sin väg. Särskilt om hon får frågor om John Lennon.
It's nice sitting here with a real Yoko Ono because I have, as so many people, different pictures of you. For people who don't know your life before you met John, you were quite a famous avant-garde artist.
Well, in the avant-garde world, yes.
Yes,
I mean,
in that world.
And avant-garde world is not that, it was never big as the pop rock world, you know. So, but yeah, within that world, people knew me, yeah.
You came from the upper class and you became an avant-garde artist. Was that kind of a reaction towards that world? Or?
Definitely, yeah.
Mm. So did you feel that you were an outsider in that world?
Well, I was outside always. It was very strange because in that world, I wasn't particularly excited about the institution and the kind of class thing and everything, you know. And so I think I got excited slumming. Mm-hmm. But then when you're slumming and you're really not part of the world, and of course, you know, you're always an outsider, you know. Mm-hmm.
Because John also wrote in his memoirs that he always felt as an outsider and he was longing for a soulmate, and so he met you. Was this the same thing, the same feeling for you when you two met?
Definitely. I think that we were both feeling like outsiders, and also we were very rebellious. So that kind of spirit was there between us, you know.
Like coming home?
Yes,
finding
it was like
a home?
It was like finding somebody that really understood me.
Could you tell us about the first meeting?
Yes, of course. I went to London and And at the opening day of my show, I was still fixing things, and then suddenly I saw John Dunbar, the owner, coming in with somebody. And I thought, well, this is very strange, because I told him not to let anybody in before the opening. And I was a bit disturbed. But then I thought, well, maybe it's his close friend or something. What am I going to do, you know? And this guy came in. He looked very elegant, extremely handsome. Then they were just sort of standing in front of the hammer nailing piece, just going, like, you know, whispering to each other and looking at it. So I wasn't going to go too near. I just went a little bit. I stood a little bit further from them, but I was just kind of thinking, well, you know, am I going to be introduced, or what's going on here, you know? And John Dunbar said, oh, this is the artist. You know, like saying, introducing me to the...
So you never know who the
this is
name
the
of?
artist. And then, and this is, you know, like he was mumbling the other name. I didn't know what he was saying, but I wasn't going to say, excuse me, you know. I said, oh, you know.
But you didn't recognize John Lennon?
Well, I think that John Dunbar was very worried that if he pronounced the name clearly, then I would immediately recognize who he was. But he didn't have to worry about that, because even if he had said John Lennon, I wouldn't have known what that meant.
But how come they were so famous at that time?
They were very famous.
But you were not
maybe it
in
has
the
something to
pop
do with my Japanese background or something. I got the name Ringo. Ringo is very simple.
Okay.
And also Ringo in Japanese means apple.
Oh, really?
So Ringo, okay, Ringo. But, you know, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, you know, I mean, I just didn't get it. So if somebody said, this is one of the Beatles, I would have noticed what that meant, you know. But he said, and especially he was mumbling, so I didn't know what that meant. And so this guy, this mysterious guy, said, could I have my nail in? So I said, well, no, you can't do that because it's before the opening, and I want to keep it clean for the opening. And he was still watching, looking at this blank block, you know, white block of a thing. So like, well, could I have an imaginary nail in and pay an imaginary money? So I said, okay, well, you can do that, you know. The reason being, when I said, no, you can't do it, the gallery owner was sort of saying, oh, what a drag. Oh, let him know, what a drag. Let him do it, you know. I said, what is he talking about? I mean, didn't we promise that we're not going to do anything before the opening, you know? But I said, oh, okay, then. Pay 5 shillings, you can do it. But actually, the reason why he didn't want to pay 5 shillings, John, is because he wasn't carrying any money. In those days, he was so famous in London. If he went to a shop and said, okay, I want to take that, deliver it to my house or something like that, nobody's going to ask for money because they can send a bill, etc., you know. So he wasn't carrying anything.
So what was your impression of John at first meeting? Funny guy?
I think he was a beautiful, handsome guy. Extremely, he looked extremely handsome and beautiful. But then afterwards, he just sort of grabbed the apple and, you know, took a bite out of it. Then I thought, oh, how dare he did that.
The artwork.
The artwork. And also, suddenly he looked, you know, he didn't look half as handsome as I thought. You know, thinking, oh dear, what's going on here? And it's very interesting. The next time I met him, he didn't look that gorgeous or beautiful. You know, that first impression, I don't know how that was created, but it was almost like magic, you know, it was just, he was so beautiful, you know.
I know you understand the little child inside the man. Please remember my life is in your hand. And woman, hold me close to your heart. However distant, don't keep us apart.
You were married, and he was married.
I know. So we were always like not really wanting to get together. There was, you know, trouble, you know, that was like glaring, you know, glaring message to both of us, I suppose.
There was so much hatred and also racism, I think. Everything was wrong with you. I mean, you were a woman, older than John, and from a different culture, Japan, not looking white as he did, and he was the local hero.
Well, he was a world hero.
A world hero, but in Britain, for the British people,
I don't know,
he was
unfortunately. But yes, for a local hero, especially in England, yes. And well, I didn't think it was so bad to be Japanese or Asian. And also, I didn't particularly think it was bad to be a woman, you know. And up to then, I think in the circle that I was in, being a woman, yes, there was some problems, you know, in the art world. But, I mean, there's an incredible jealousy, you know, and I was not included in a group show. They were all men or whatever. But I didn't think of it as particularly a kind of a boycott of a women. I just thought of it as a boycott of a good artist. I mean, I thought they were just jealous of me or something like that, you know.
But even your own friends turned their back on you.
I know, I couldn't believe it.
Isn't that strange? How did you cope with that?
Well, they say that I was hurt. And I went through some incredible humiliation, incredible humiliation. And I think that maybe, is it like I needed that kind of lesson? What is it? Was I so proud that I needed that much lesson of humility? I don't know.
You provoke people in a way. I don't know why. Why do you think
I don't know why. Well, I think that instead of wondering why I provoke people, I like to think of all the experience that I had as a kind of lesson. And I went through it. But also, I think that John's fans went through it with me. And first, they couldn't stand me, etc. And now, I think in a way, many of them getting used to me being here, you know. And so either they compromised and just started to accept me. I'm sure there's still people who really can't stand me. For no reason, actually.
But maybe there was some jealousy because you had such a special relationship and it was known. You were very open with your love, both you and John, in texts and even when you gave interviews. People maybe were jealous because I think it was quite an unusual relationship too.
I know. I mean, I think that I was very lucky, actually. From that point of view.
How would you describe
What?
your relationship that you had?
Well, we had a relationship which was beautiful, and it was like a miracle and a magical on one hand. But on the other side, you know, that we're just like normal men and women. You know, we had our problems, we had our arguments, you know.
And at one time you sent him away?
Yes.
What happened? Why did you do that? Sent him away like that?
It wasn't so much that I was saying, get out of here or something like that. It was like, you know, logically, it was probably better that we give each other space or something like that for a while, you know. I was in a very kind of warm atmosphere. We were talking about that.
But it was a lot of space. You even sent a woman with him.
Well, he said he never traveled alone, which was true. He had all this entourage around him. And when he got together with me, he burnt the bridge, literally. And he just didn't have anybody else. And I thought that was very unfair. But at the time, he was first saying, well, but, you know, I never traveled alone, so what am I going to do, you know? So I was thinking, oh, well, maybe he should take somebody. And there was that kind of feeling that maybe this somebody would be more than what, you know, whatever. But he definitely needed an assistant to go with him. and
But-
take care of him. Yeah.
Weren't you jealous at that time? It is very unusual things to do.
All right. So in a very unusual circumstances, you have to take a very unusual step. And our circumstances were extremely unusual. For instance, the people are so curious about us that when we did this primal therapy, and the psychologist or psychotherapist said, okay, one thing you have to do is to separate yourselves and sleep in a separate room for a week. And John didn't want to do that, and I wasn't particularly happy about it, and we just go, well, what are we going to do? Well, let's try it, because if it's good for us, we should try it. And when we did that in England, of course that was in the papers, that they are now in separate bedrooms. You see, it's on that level. They're watching us all the time.
But it worked out very well, because you didn't split up.
No, but I didn't think
people
so.
are very afraid of that. If you separate for a while, maybe this is the beginning of the end.
Well, I was more afraid that I would be destroyed as a human being. I was more afraid that I would be destroyed in spirit. As an artist too, I didn't want that.
You, I know in an interview I read that you were so upset, and I can understand that you sometimes were just nothing to people. I mean, if you asked a question, they answered John. And they didn't even see
I know.
you sometimes. You were Mrs. Lennon and not
I was an
anything
invisible person. But for a very invisible person, they certainly attacked me a lot.
Yeah. It was also, you got the blame for splitting the Beatles.
Yes, that one. Okay, go ahead.
That one. You had that question before. But it must. But how was it? I mean, because of you, John chose another life. Do you think that Beatles had been splitting up anyway?
I don't know. This whole dramatic thing about John is the one who broke up the Beatles, meaning then that I broke up the Beatles. If there's something that's going on that's really beautiful and healthy and strong, nobody can split that except themselves. And I think each one of the Beatles were thinking what to do after their tour was over. They said they'll never tour again, remember? So after that, they didn't know, what are they going to do,
So it was already a fact,
I
more or
mean,
less.
before I came in, that is.
So, from what I can see, it was a kind of hate and love relationship between Paul and John all the time.
I think they were very close, and also they understood each other, and and Paul is a very talented composer, etc. But also the sensitivity level is very high. He's a very sensitive kind of person. So obviously they got along. But obviously there's some kind of sibling rivalry or whatever. There's that too. Yeah.
Do you have contacts with Paul, for instance, today?
Yeah. Well, it's off and on. Now it's off.
Why?
I don't know. It just seems like sometimes we don't agree with certain things. Mostly business. Well, all business, I suppose, And I suppose, that happens.
Even if it's just one night, I miss you and it don't feel right. I wish you were here tonight, dear Yoko. Even if it's just 1 hour, I would just like a faded flower. Ain't nothing in the world like our love, dear Yoko.
If we go back to where we were before, when you reunited again after the separation, you became pregnant. How did that change your life? Because
that was another very interesting experience, very different, because John was not like the normal husband. He wanted to take care of Sean, which was, I thought, was beautiful actually.
And then now the world was angry again because you were not being a real mother, and here was him giving up his music, staying at home. But
And I'm doing the business. Why? You know?
Mm.
Well, by then I was used to being attacked. I think that it's not like I became a masochist or anything like that. I was like, oh dear, that. You see, you can't. You can't set up your life for others. I mean, it's my own life. So I'm going to do what I think is right.
The 8th of December this year will be a day remembered all over the world, probably, because it's 20 years since John was shot. And I was yesterday outside of Dakota. I wanted to see, and it was astonishing, all the people that were passing by. So many people from morning to night, stopping, watching, thinking, almost meditating, looking at the place where John was shot. And I thought of you, it must be terrible because you are reminded about this terrible night all the time.
Well, not really. I think that maybe I'm blocking it, but when I'm living in Dakota and in the morning I go out and in the evening I come back or whatever I'm doing, I'm not always thinking about death. No. I think about the time that we were together and how beautiful it was. And also, I don't really feel like his spirit really died. I think that his spirit is still alive. And so it's a place, it's a building where we started to create a home for Sean and us. And, you know, I have that positive feeling about the place.
Sean was only 5 years old, and they had been so close together, buddies, John and Sean. How did they take all that? I mean, it was difficult to...
Well, it was a terrible time, and, you know, and I, as a mother, should have been holding him more. But I was too much in my own pain. I couldn't even face him sometimes, you know, because I couldn't face his pain on top of mine or something like that. Well, you know, I regret the fact that I was that kind of mother. I was like that. I couldn't help it. I was just wallowing my own pain and sorrow. And he was a brave boy. I think he was trying to, in fact, kind of encourage me and support me, and I would never forget that. He was a very brave boy.
I remember you said that he was thinking of your future, that you will meet another man, so you wouldn't feel sorry.
And then I thought, oh, if he's saying that, you know, he's not feeling that sad, so thank God, you know, great
That
that
was
he's
your
not
reaction.
feeling. That's what I thought. And then I found that, you know, he went back to his room and he was crying. But he didn't even show me his tears.
But he also said in an interview I heard that you became so much closer, the two of you. Before he had his father who was his body, and now it was you. And
Well, after the initial big bang, when I could not get out of bed kind of thing, I think we became very close. Yeah.
How did you go on and survive after the murder? I mean, it's...
Oh, that was the hardest, really. Well, I kept wondering why this was happening. Because John and I felt that we knew all the answers by then. We were just a bit cocky about it, you know, fresh about it, you know, thinking, oh, well, we know it all now. Between us, you know, we're very wise. And then suddenly this kind of thing that we never expected happened, you know. And it was so painful, especially because we taught Sean that there's nothing you can't do in the world, you know. And wish for whatever you want to wish, and you can do it, as long as it doesn't hurt other people or yourself, you know. And the magic of life, that's what we were teaching him. And then he was crying and saying, well, Mommy, you know, you guys said that there's nothing I can't do in the world, but I can't get Daddy back, could I, you know. And it was so terrible. I mean, I didn't know what to say to him.
Because that was true.
that was true, and we were arrogant about it probably, I don't know.
För mig är nu myten om Yoko Ono död. Kvar finns en kvinna av kött och blod som alltid valt att gå sin egen väg och fått betala ett högt pris för det liv hon valde. Jag har bestämt mig. Jag gillar Yoko Ono.
Woman, please let me